Hello, welcome to the fifth chapter of Salivari Thoughts. Today is pasta carbonara, and I would like to say that I never did it because it's maybe the third time I've prepared myself this dish. And it's quite good, to be honest with you. It's the third time I'm restarting this video because I had like technical problem, and then the battery get low, and so now it's not so hot as it should be, but it's still warm, and I hope I will be able to finish the dish and the video before I had another problem. The topic of today is the system. Actually, I don't know really what does it mean, the system, but I hear this word many times in many fields, but I cannot really figure out what is it. Somehow I would say that my relationship with the system is something comparable with God, or a kind of big figure that takes everything on the heart. So, do I believe in the system? Well, that's a question that is not so easy to answer, because I could believe in it if I'm placed myself into this historical moment, and I could accept this as an explanation to, let's say, understand or to place myself into the world, or to be more precise, into the society in which I'm living it, which is saying that there is a system. I've spoken with a friend about the system of art, because there is probably different system, or maybe a big one, and then there is like different levels of the system. The one that we are more concerned with, my friend, is the art system, which is probably very connected with the big system. Well, those questions are a sort of mystical approach, because in fact it's really hard to see all those elements living together. So I would say that it's a kind of laziness to believe on the system, but somehow it might allow to get more precise in personal desires and how to place yourself from the outside. And so That's why I'm saying that it's a sort of cult or of divinity, probably necessary to some psychological construction. Then to get more into detail and what was my perception of the system. Sometimes it's when I not really understand what's going on, or I have the impression that there is like separation between fields and practice or people. But now I think I really get into art, so I won't consider that what I'm saying from now. It's also working for every part of the life into the system, but maybe there is some connection that we can find. Well, so the system of art, if I have to resume it, I would say that is somehow institutional and based on business, which means that an artwork have to find a sort of market, and this market produce his own way to produce and to sell. I would say that maybe the big biennales or art face, now internationals, are probably the best example for it. And as probably every person 20 years old dream, it's to find a sort of freedom or to have some kind of feelings of rebellion. So there is like this common attitude to be against the business of art, and sometimes the word system also appear in this kind of position, and I guess it's important because somehow it's part of the construction and part of the aesthetical choice of people during their educations. Now, I would say that today my impression is that the system of the concept of a system, it's always produced at some point, even when it's a little countryside town producing some art, and at some point someone is selling his painting or whatever he's doing. So it creates a market, or I use the term of market because I have no problem with that. I really see it as from the perspective of exchange, and so someone is doing something or have something, the other person have something else, and they're interesting of what the other have, and they find a way to negotiate an exchange. And when these exchanges become a sort of habit, and there is many people around doing the same, it's become a market. I'm not an expert on economy, so I hope to not offend anyone that have studied this theme very precisely. But I also want to take a position from people they might don't like the term of market, because they automatically associate it to the financial market or wild capitalism or anything they might consider bad. So, to come back like in a personal scale, and because I'm 30 years old, and so my age, or somehow I would say I'm getting out of this total rebellious and wish to prove something to myself and to people around me. I would just say that my problem sometimes with the system or the established aesthetic is that when you try to be part of the system or be part of the cultural life, that it's maybe part of a big system, I don't know, and you want to enter with your own aesthetic, usually the reaction of it's that you didn't understand well, and your proposition is more seen as a mistake. And I would say that that's the moment where I'm most feeling that there is something I cannot understand, and maybe that is the system. Also because there is other artworks that are considered good, but somehow they are not really different than previous generation work, or they're just trying to, how to say, to change a little some element, but in fact they are not so different into the approach, and so that is considered interesting but also right. And somehow the impression is that the people that are in charge of the cultural scale are somehow find and feel to be secure seeing that the young people are doing what they fight for. This is the most, I guess, beautiful guarantee when you see that your approach and your proposal is followed by other people, and somehow that creates a really problematic situation, because if the first generation, to make it short, break some rule and have creating this attitude or this approach. They also give the transmission of this, and it's not only about aesthetic, it's about to present a position. So if the second generation don't follow the aesthetic, it's not because it's wrong, but because they maybe have to find also critical position. But now we are not only on the second and the third generation, we are, I don't know, many, and I guess that this game of breaking the rules from the previous generation is not, it's somehow, and it sounds as a paradox, but it's also a tradition that should be break, but in the same time how to propose something that are not really following the tradition, and that's the game and the difficulty, because it's required to create some kind of new attention or new logics, and at that moment the system waking up and say that this is not art, this is a dilettante work, or this is a mistake or whatever, because it's becoming hard to just place another perspective and try to create new codes. And also, I guess when you are young, you're just starting, so everything it's at the same time fresh, and at the same time it's about a discovery, and the critical gaze about saying that is not a professional approach or professional work, it's somehow also laziness, because let's make a metaphor. I don't think that the first persons that have discovered a new land knew what to do with, and knew exactly what there is inside in it, and how to behave in this new landscape. Since the 70s, we believe that the world is not to discover anymore, so there is people that they are turning into new planets to somehow continue this tradition of finding new stuff, and the explorer mythology. Me, I have another perspective, and I also take it from the science fiction field, and it's this I don't know in English the title, and I don't want to say bullshit about the names, but it's the book on which the film Stalker from Tarkovsky it's based, and I don't want to take time to resuming now the book and the issues, but this book and the movie it's really open a new approach to this world that it's supposed to be finished in the exploring field. This movie, it's speaking that the world, it's looking exactly as we know it, but it doesn't work anymore on the traditional rule, and have to create a new gaze. And on the perspective of the view, it's look exactly the same, but it doesn't mean any more the same, and the way you are into it is not anymore the same. And I guess I prefer this position than dreaming about finding new stuff or destroying the previous generation discoveries. I prefer to think that the old paradigms are not anymore totally useful, and we need some kind of an upgrade, and in this upgrade we are really young. To go back in the system, I speak with a lot of people of my age, and somehow I will say that we are scared, and we fear the system, and the two most used positions are: one, to embrace the system and to avoid any research in parallel of it or against it, and just to try to push something into it. And the other one is to place totally against it and to create a sort of new scene or underground position or attitude. And the position of against, it's producing the fact that you are basically a marginal. I remember that the first year of my school in art, we were like a good team of people having drinks and speak about everything. And at some point we noticed that we won't do really an exhibition soon, because we are like in the first year, and no one was a genius, so how to really produce a situation that we could face some issues about a public presentation. And one girl had the idea to make an exhibition on the parking lot, and we did it. And then some teachers and also artists from the scene, they were laughing because they said, "What do you think? That wasn't an exhibition, that wasn't art, that was just doing something on a parking lot." And I guess this is when the believing of the system, which I think it's totally abstract, but the behave in front or into this abstract concept, they are real. And so if you are trying to produce out of it, the reaction would just be that you are not doing anything, and that's not art, or that's not. Then one strategy, and we stopped it. We were planning, and the girl was planning to do other exhibition like this, but somehow we were cut in our enthusiasm, and we just stopped because we wanted actually to make art, and that was a way to push us to enter into the system. I guess now that the strategy would have been to just keep going this and create a feed that actually would also create at some point a system, the system of the parking lot exhibition, which is actually useful to create diversity into the system. But the conversation I have with my friend, I say that personally I don't want to place myself against, and I don't really want to embrace the system or how it's work. Me and friends I know, and also people I don't know, but I'm sure they are into this position. I think we try to negotiate with the system or existence in the art field, or as person that they are doing art actually. And this negotiation is not waiting to have like a sticker or to just get really into the system and then we exist. We actually already exist. We actually are already doing art. Then, because of the money, because of the production need, it's better to work with the system, because stuff are already fixed since many years. They also need some update, but I would say that is to place what we are doing at the same level, and just to negotiate, and also to not get into a marginal position which we close totally the bridge between the system or the systems, because I guess the most important point, or beautiful point, it's when there is a connection with most of the reality of the society. So the system, or the people that they believe in the system, are part of the society and the reality in which we are living it, and somehow we have to deal with that, and to close ourselves totally out, it's probably recreate a comfort zone in the system, and we negotiate also with the outside. But I think that it can produce like a closed system, or that the system will take this little reality to totally embrace it, and what we call that the system make recuperation. I don't know if in English it's right, this term, but I think it's clear for everyone when there is like this experimental or underground that suddenly become